Hello, everybody. It's your friend Tyler, and welcome to another episode of the Immersive Podcast. As always, an esteemed guest, Jonathan Robinson. He is a past life regression hypnotherapist. He's certified. He is from Canada. He also does Reiki and energy healing work and plenty more. I don't want to speak for the man, so I will let John introduce himself. John, how are you doing today? That's excellent, and that's all very much within the lane of this production here that we've created, and it seemed to gain a little bit of steam. And just while we're at the beginning here, of course, I want to take just a moment to shout out to our affiliate sponsors. Galactic Federation of Light Clothing, as you see my hat here. If you go on their website, and their Instagram is gfl.earth. All these links are in the bio. Use the code Tyler33 and you get a free hat if you add it to your cart. Got a new hat out right now. It's got a campaign of cancel culture, which I support. I don't support cancel culture, so I like that. GFL clothing, photonically charged clothing, responsibly sourced. Motto is clothing for light workers. So go ahead and check them out and remember that code. Another shout out to Unified TV. There's a link in the bio for a free trial. I personally don't watch a lot of mainstream television. Unified gives a lot of news. The Disclosure series with Ray and Jason Shirka has become very popular. So shout out to them. And of course, Gaia TV. Can't say enough thanks to them. They've got many personalities who have been featured on their network who have graciously given their time to this show. So we appreciate Gaia and many of the personalities who have been willing to work with us. Um, so thanks a lot, everybody, and especially the viewers. So, John, let's get into John Robinson. That's what we're here to talk about today. Um, how long have you been doing past life? Regressions, hypnotherapy, that kind of thing. When did you first start getting into it? Oh, yeah. Ah, yeah. De- Depends on the therapist and your mindset and such, I imagine, right? Okay. Okay. That's awesome. Very cool. Very cool. And you have a website that where's your main way that you promote your services just for the audience for your healing and such. Okay. Excellent. JourneysintoPastLives.com is Jonathan Robinson's website. That'll be in the bio. So don't worry. You don't have to remember it. You click it. And he's also on the socials. Cool. Yeah. that's fun. People love something in the door that's interactive. To I know that would make me explore a website a little bit further if there's just something interactive and fun to start with. So props on that, and there's also a little bit of value in things like that too. So, or maybe a lot depending on the person. So that's really cool. I'm proud of you, and congratulations for going out on that whim. I mean, I think we are all aware that choosing a career in even myself, just podcasting and talking about these subjects, it can be considered taboo by some. It's been considered woo woo in the past. The energy healing, Reiki healing, past life regression. Although I definitely see, and it's plainly obvious to me, that there's a turning of the tides of sorts. That there's, it seems that the world at large is a little bit more open to these ideas these days. Is a little more open to the ideas of alternative healing and the exploring what we are now a little bit more willing to admit that we don't understand about the mind. And personally, I've explored those modalities such as regression, hypnotherapy, energy work, even seeing mediums and things like that. And I can personally attest to the efficacy of those kinds of treatments. And of course, I want to say that doesn't mean that they're always going to be a one-stop shop, quick fix for every problem. Just like anything, there's things out there that don't. John, that is the one of the better points I've heard made in quite some time, and that's very honorable of you to say. Yes, bless those who paved the way before those of us now. Who, I mean, we feel woo-woo sometimes in certain situations where we have to be proud and stand our ground and be true to self. But just imagine 100 years ago, 50 years ago, and trying to do the same thing in a world that was much less accepting. um, that must have been difficult. So yes, much respect to those who came before, the pioneers of these fields, hypnotherapy, etc. Mm-hmm. I would 100% agree with that. I mean, with any of the disciplines that I'm any bit proficient in, I'll use guitar as an example. I'm a professional guitar player, and every time I've gone back and taught somebody to play the guitar, I personally get a little bit better. Whether it's breaking a bad habit that I've developed that deviated from the fundamentals, or reminding myself of something that I learned 25 years ago that I just never really paid much mind to. That reinforcement of the fundamentals is certainly important. So, with that being said, is that something that you've incorporated into your lifestyle as a quote unquote light worker and an energy healer, a practitioner of Reiki and hypnotherapy? Do you have students? Do you have people that you mentor, etc.? That's okay, Jonathan. We are not live, so it's quite all right. We're at about 9 minutes and 40 seconds. And if you lost a train of thought, that's quite all right. You were talking about past life regression and how people, um, how I asked you about your, if you had taught it and you had taken on proteges or anything of that sort. Um, and you were going into kind of your explanation on that. I believe that was my question, but I'm just noting the time so you don't have to worry about a little piece being edited or in there where you made a little blunder. We all make little blunders. But yeah, I believe the question was so I guess I could go back to, the what's your thought on having the relationship with mentors, peers, and proteges in regard to your healing modalities and things like that. Yeah, you mentioned them. So let's roll right back into it at 10:45 right now. So John, you had mentioned that that concept of peers, mentors, mentees, and all that stuff. Is that something that you have applied to your your work as a light worker, an energy healer, and a hypnotherapist? Do you what's that like in that arena? Your peers, your mentors, and more specifically, your mentees. And do you have mentees? Is that something that is important to you? Oh, yes. True. Yeah, that's a really good. I really like your philosophy on the way you're going about these things. I think that's awesome. For example, the hypnotherapy session, the group session. Of course, we all know that it's not it's not free. It's not on the house. I mean, hypnotherapists, regressionists, they do what they do, and then I do not believe they should be doing it for free. I mean, it's work. You deserve to be compensated. You've got to eat too. But just for example, the person who might, be on the fence about something like that helping them may not want to dive into a one-on-one session, but they might be open to something that's a group session that's a little bit lower in cost. There's more people associated, so they don't feel so alone. And then, like you said, maybe that seed's planted where they're ready to take that next step and become a little more personalized. I really like that approach. Awesome. Yeah, of course. Exactly. And that's a key word there is non-invasive. Like these things, they're not going to hurt you. A friend of mine, Antonia Harmon, she's doing a PTSD case study right now. And she's got a few taglines for it, which they're great. And I think they kind of apply to a lot of non-invasive spiritual practices where, she says things like, you've got nothing to lose but your pain, or the worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work. Things like that, which I think is important with some of these to remind people of with some of these treatment modalities. And it's actually part of the reason that a lot of the early episodes of this show, I did a lot of I let some energy workers work on me. I did a lot of regression stuff. Some of it was not on the show, but we went on and discussed it afterwards. I've been put into trance and things like that, more to kind of showcase, like, look, like I believe in this stuff. I'm giving over my intent to these things, but no matter what, like you're watching this, it's me. It's the one you went to kindergarten with. I'm safe. The worst thing that could happen is really, I don't personally believe in black magic, so to speak. I don't think that if I let somebody do a little bit of energy work on me, that they're going to trick me and do anything and put any kind of hex on me. I think if I'm walking with a positive enough frequency and in a high enough vibration, that this is probably not going to attract into my existence. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Every word. Yeah, of course. That's pretty interesting that that you're seeing about half of the clientele people as people who are somewhat new to these kind of practices. That's really hopeful to me. That's that tipping of the tides, that critical mass thing that I always talk about. I think that's when things start to really change, is when those everybody's I always say everybody's had seeds planted. We've all heard something, and we've all went down a little bit of a rabbit hole with some conspiracy or something that's not accepted as massive mainstream fact. That's a seed planted. Those seeds get watered over time. It's not like you just hear something that Alex Jones said once and believe it. I mean, maybe some people do, but you hear these things over time and you're living in what you think to be the normal, just doing what you're supposed to do as an average American or Canadian or, just Westerner, whatever you were taught you're supposed to be doing. And, for me anyway, it was seeds that were planted. And now that I look back, it was the watering, quote unquote, of those seeds that kind of helped turn me into the person that I am now, and at least put me on a path toward becoming the person that I want to be. Um, and that comes along with just hearing things in repetition over and over again, hearing about hypnotherapy, hearing about energy healing, hearing about quantum physics, hearing about frequency, hearing about um, mhm, I know. Mhm, right. So, Discernment. That's the key word there is discernment, right? Practice discernment. We need it. Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. And that's why I think we're seeing, and where what I'm seeing is the acceptance of this kind of thing in the mainstream via subconscious coaches. Yeah, I have some friends who are that's kind of the arena that they've delved into, and the work that they've went into is working with the subconscious. And I mean, I know for a fact. I mean, I've come from a lot of different worlds. My life story is a little bit crazy, but I mean, I've worked for 9-figure companies where I'm in the boardroom, and they hire subconscious trainers to come in and before a quarter that's important to literally get the executives like in a place of its mindset, its framework, it's all subconscious training. And you're sitting here in this boardroom with all these people with suits, and you're thinking this is a place where astrology, numerology, and energy healing and anything of that sort goes out the window, and it's really all about numbers and high digit stuff and evidence-based results. What I started to see when I did get higher up into the business world is that, oh, these people once they at a certain level, they're actually consulting, well, not only astrologists and numerologists, but on a very, very open level. You know, people who work with the subconscious, which that's how they frame it. But what's really happening is it's a form of hypnotherapy, is what they're doing. It's a mindset shift. They're attempting to get the team together to get a cohesive mindset that's driven towards meeting a certain goal. And not that it's a bad thing, it's just, it's interesting to see that it's what you're talking about, hypnotherapy, and what might some people look see a sign, hypnotherapy, quit smoking, etc. And they think woo woo. Uh, Sorry to burst the bubble, but some of the world's biggest organizations have their top players in a room having their team, for lack of a better word, hypnotized for better performance. Yeah. NFL teams do it. It works. Yeah, I would agree 100%. And this is all stuff that it's really it's a thinning of the veil for me over the past few years. I mean, I really took the trust fall out of what was a pretty comfortable, average upper middle class American life and career. Um, I left that. I mean, I don't know if I'm welcome back or not. It's been quite a few years. But I took a little bit of a trust fall into just being myself, which at first meant reading books and getting back to meditation, getting my body back in shape, getting healthy. And now here we are a couple of years later doing a podcast and things like that. But still very much uncertain, and that's okay with me. I love that uncertainty because there's both uncertainty and certainty. I'm certain that I'm myself, that I'm only going to get closer to what my true self is by being open to certain concepts, to certain conversations. And sometimes that means taking a trust fall or two that doesn't make sense on paper. But I can say for me, it's worked out. Mhm. Yeah, we have bills. That's great. Oh, just things you wanted to do, right? And things that fed your soul. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they always say failure teaches you much more from than success. I mean, you don't really learn a lot from success compared to failure. Now, I tend to not agree with that statement. I mean, I've had a lot of failures in my life, just like everybody else. I like to refer to, my trials and tribulations as testimony, things that I got through, things that you got through, things that all of us got through. They don't have to be looked at as trials or horrible things. But I think, um, what was I trying to say there? Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, 100%. And thank you for kind of finishing my train of thought there. Because yeah, that's what I was kind of gonna touch on was just we tend to think in terms of good and bad, black and white. But for most part, that means good or bad. There's an association there. Something's positive, something's negative. And that is true to some extent, but I always say, the law of one trumps duality to me. Maybe they'll attribute that quote to me one day. I don't know. But I believe that the law of one trumps duality. Though duality does exist in our 3D constructs, um, that ascension that we always talk about, that merging of the souls back into one, that new earth, that whole concept of awakening and ascension, that's what that really is, you know, soul. There was the dissension where souls separate to have different life experiences in all the different human forms and ways possible. And you know the ascension should supposedly, by definition, be the opposite of that, where, well, there's some return to oneness, or at least toward oneness, which obviously puts things at odds with duality. But I think there's both. Of course, we experience duality in everything, black and white, good and bad. You said it very well. In the spirit world, in the 5D, in the dimensions above what we're operating in, it's not good or bad. It's just the way it's written. It's meant for something. It's very hard to look, yourself in the mirror when you're struggling and say that, or to look somebody who's struggling worse than you could ever imagine and tell them that. But mhm, level one. Amen. So you're somebody who's developed, these abilities, which, just for the record, I do believe in Homo sapiens sapiens, natural humans. I believe that we, at least many of us, if not all of us, have abilities that we have not tapped into. What's your thought on that? Of course, you've tapped into the ability to sense energies and even manipulate energies a little bit with your energy healing. Obviously, with Reiki, that's an offshoot of working with energy. Do you believe that everybody has the capacity to develop certain abilities that quote unquote seem paranormal, superhuman, so to speak? Right. Till about age 4 or so, is that correct? Is it until about like age 4 or so that kids kind of are in that theta state? Is that correct? Or oh, okay, it's a little longer. Okay, of course. Absolutely. Excellent. That's a clip right there. I'm gonna clip that one for you, John. That's motivational. That's inspirational, and it's damn true. That's the most important part. I mean, I could sit here all day and say things that sound motivational, but if they're not true, then that doesn't really help anybody. But I asked you that question because you have spent the time to develop these gifts and such, and to hear somebody like you say that is refreshing. I think, well, to me, but also to anybody out there listening who's thinking, I can't meditate, I can't this, I can't that. I've tried. Um, my personal example with that one would be meditation. I've always meditated, but there was a time in my life where I thought I was meditating, so to speak, and I was. I mean, meditation's meditation, whatever that means to you. But I'd sit for 20 or 30 minute meditations and be done. Um, Nothing ever really came further from those things, and of course, it did calm me down, and I practiced pranayama techniques and things like that. It wasn't until about 3 years ago or so and that's kind of when I left my old career and just that was kind of the dark night of the soul for me a few years back. I really started meditating like with full intent and really with the intent of ridding attachments to my old beliefs, my old mindset, my old frameworks, what drove me, because what drove me back in the day was money. I mean, that's kind of what drives a lot of people. That's the big liquid top of the pyramid in Western culture. And I mean, I'm not ashamed to admit that. Before I had a so-called spiritual awakening of sorts as an adult, and really chose to really seek this path. I mean, that's what my life was about. I wanted to succeed in career, succeed in finance, and be able to take care of myself and my family. That's what I cared about. Um, that those attachments came away. Now I'm not saying give away all your money. You do need money to eat, so don't take that advice if you're thinking I'm telling you to throw all your money away. But just when those attachments, those things that were the most important things to me, and I realized that they really truly were not the most important things to me. that's what really pushed me to the next level was meditations. My meditations went from 20-minute meditations to, oh, I sat down at, 2, and now I thought it was a 20-minute meditation, and I'd come out at 6:30 out of a trance state and just spent the day in total bliss, like absolute just magical trance state meditations. And then, the CE5 protocols and things like that. I explored those, but with an open mind, a new perspective, and that stuff really changed things for me. Sitting like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Audible and podcasts and things. You can learn a lot these days passively. Yeah. And yeah, and I'd tack onto that and say, the more I learn, the more I find out, the more I kind of feel like, wow, I really don't know. Yeah, it only brings more questions. The bigger concepts I understand and the bigger connections I make only only ever present yet another question, which is, I mean, that's the sauce of it all anyway. That's what's fun. Life wouldn't be fun if I knew everything and everything had a little if it was paint by numbers. I like the puzzle aspect of things where there's a, oh, you figured that one out, well, now you got to merge the two concepts and figure out the new concept. Yeah, there's always another why. Yeah, it's just Mhm. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that aspect of things. As far as, whether we're talking about spiritual development or even just physical development, career development, whatever, whatever you're trying to do in life, anybody out there, I really champion meditation. A lot of people, and like you said, there's an idea in their head of what it is, and I guess most people probably picture sitting Indian style in the in the half lotus position with the mudra. Yeah, okay, that's fine. But we know that meditation can mean many things to many different people, and it's really just about calming the mind, emptying the mind. I've heard it said that prayer is talking to God, and meditation is listening to God. And when I meditate, the goal was to have basically nothing going on up there, so that there's plenty of open airspace or source to come in and put whatever's in there, or maybe that's myself. I mean, now we're getting into quantum theory, but the goal was just to quiet the mind and see what happens when you listen. That's my take on it. Let's do it. just like just box breathing type of stuff like that. Yeah, that's great. I actually did calm down. Just, I mean, I'm open like that. I really try to take those kind of suggestions. Somebody says empty your mind and focus. I really do empty my mind and focus. Going from my left toe to my index finger, I mean, for me is well, it might be easier for myself than others. I don't know. I mean, I meditate a lot, but just that simple act of taking your focus and putting it on something seemingly mundane helps. It closes off all that unnecessary static and noise that's going on that you realize didn't really end up there on purpose, I guess. For scurry away. Yeah, and that's the whole goes back to the mind being the controller of the body. The example that I always like to go back to that's really so cut and dry is, and this is one you may have heard of, but under hypnosis, they've done experiments where, um, for example, they've hypnotized people to believe that they may have an allergic reaction. They have an allergy to a certain substance, like a walnut or whatever it may be. And I might be butchering the study, but we'll get the idea. And then, upon actually believing that one has an allergy to a certain substance and, putting a walnut in their hand or even a bouncy ball that's they're told is a walnut under, suggestion and under hypnosis in that theta state, um, they'll actually, they'll actually experience the anaphylactic reaction. It's like, okay, so what did Tyler just say? Well, what I said is that the mind does have power over the body, like way more than you even understand. Yes. Yeah. Right. Like you're in the placebo group. Yeah. And okay. It was traumatic. Makes sense. Yeah, there's tons of little anecdotal and published, experiments about the power of mind, over matter and the power of just, and even further, the collective mind and intent on others, not just self. But I mean, uh, I know that you've done part of your hypnotherapy work, if I recall from our prior conversation, is that something you do, which I think is really cool. Um, During regression, you work with clients who have had ET contact, and then you bring them back to the time of contact where they maybe don't have the memory. Is that correct? Yeah, so that is cool. And 100%. Yeah. And that's the magic sauce right now is that the merging of science and spirituality. It's been called, I've heard it referred to from insiders as we're merging the new physics. We're merging the understanding of old physics with the new understanding of physics, which is just another way. We're going to be friends. We've been down a lot of the same paths, brother. I've went down the student of the Vedas, although I must admit it is hard being a native English speaker. The translations and such are difficult. They're very, very metaphorical. I wish I had a guru who could come and like I could spend a lot of time with and translate these things for me because I know there's a lot lost in translation between the ancient Sanskrit and such in the Vedas and the Mahabharata and things like that, which are so I believe to be so pertinent, um, but they're not. Mhm. That's an interesting concept, John. I often speak on divide and conquer. That's the way. I mean, there's a lot more of us than them, so to speak. When people say they and them, they're usually talking about the elites or those who are generally malevolent and trying to control the masses. Assuming that there is a the masses, well, there's a lot more of us than there is of them. It's just deductive reasoning. Um, Something I always say and speak on is, the divide and conquer method. Divide and conquer is always alive and well, and it can happen within even factions. I mean, people who go down that rabbit hole of deciding that, okay, I understand that there are ancient techniques, there's ancient wisdom available that's being hidden from me. I understand that maybe some technology is being suppressed. I understand that maybe the history I was taught isn't exactly the history that happened. But we all go down these different paths. And, some people end up flat earth enthusiasts. Some people end up training in hypnotherapy. Some of us end up starting a podcast and talking to everybody. And some people go insane. It's all over the place. And that's unfortunately I think a divide and conquer thing. It's this the classic division thing. It's always important to remember to me that we as humans, as people, as souls, trying to step up, trying to raise our consciousness as individuals and as a collective, um, there's almost an inherent responsibility to take that a little bit more serious, to to use discernment, to act with dignity, and to help your fellow man, your fellow woman, your brothers and sisters once in a while, and to just keep an open mind because these things that are coming out, these new techniques, these things that are becoming more accepted, like I said, seeds planted, seeds watered. I really believe we're going to hit that critical mass. It just takes these conversations over and over and over and over and over again, and one more person buying in, one more person giving an endorsement, one more person, going down that rabbit hole. But And my point was, anyway, those rabbit holes we go down, I hate to see them divide us. Anybody who's out there thinking of the quote unquote they, we started somewhere with a similar intent where we wanted to seek some knowledge, whether it be truth or knowledge of self. And any of us who are seeking truth or knowledge of self, I think we're in the same camp. We've got to use discernment now more than ever. We're really in a place where we're bombarded with so many different pieces of information. It's naturally very difficult to pick a side and such, especially from a place of, feeling like you're not an insider or anything like that. Um, mhm, of course. The shiny red ball effect, I call it. Yeah. God forbid we want to audit the Federal Reserve, right? Like, no, we look at this shiny red ball over here. Yeah, of course they don't want. They don't. They, if there's a they, yeah, I try to shy away. Control the information. Yep. Yeah. Such such a great point. And it's funny, I had a conversation with a friend of mine who I'd like for him to come on the podcast as well. He's an artist, but I haven't spoken to him in a couple of years. We spoke yesterday, and I don't know. He doesn't know exactly where I stand, politically and everything like that. I mean, we haven't spoken in a few years, so he was kind of touching on that. I guess he's pretty politically involved. Now, that being said, my show is not about politics. I don't sit here and take a left or right side. I've never really had a left or right side. I'm just me. For the record, I believe in personal freedoms. That's about it. Yeah, art. Yeah, they're using art as a platform and an excuse to further an agenda, which I mean, it's kind of an insult to the art. As an artist, I mean, I don't appreciate it. Yeah, but yeah, it's just crazy times we're living in. But I feel, I don't know. I always walk around with this little. It's not little. It's generally an overwhelming sense of faith and optimism. And I do have those times where I see darkness and I see something that makes me feel a little bit hopeless in the moment. But overall, I mean, I do have a lot of faith in us as a collective. I think where we're headed and what we're doing, what people like you are doing, even myself, not to toot my horn at all. I'm not doing anything special. I'm just having conversations with people who are really doing special things like yourself. Um, but that's something that people can do. There's a place for anybody who wants to contribute to the new earth, the paradigm shift. I mean, the new earth does not have to be this Dolores Cannon concept of You don't have to believe in any particular idea. At the end of the day, for the most, conservative person out there listening, the new earth can still just mean a place where, the corrupt, malevolent leaders who are in control, who are in perceived control, maybe aren't anymore. And that we, as the people, realize that we have, like we've touched on, abilities, knowledge, and more that we just never have tapped into. And over time has kind of had a cap placed on it. It doesn't mean that that cap can't be removed. True. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Very well said, John. And I like something that you said there was, you pointed out doing things that are good for the world, and you pointed out some things that are actually, good for self as well. Meditate, read, learn, etc. Now, on the surface, one might think, well, how are those good for the world? That's good for the self. No, if everybody meditated a little bit more, and if everybody were a little bit more self-educated, read things for themselves, not just took it on faith, but if everybody did those things that fed their soul, that is good for the world. It's the classic argument of, in the airplane, please put your mask on before your child so that you may be able to put your child's mask on. Um, yes. Yeah. And yeah, in authenticity, and just that true authenticity to, um, commitment to your fellow human, that your fellow man, that's really palpable. I mean, I find that so attractive in a person, yet not, on a romantic level, but just when I see that in a person, that's a person that I want in my life. That's a person that I want in my circles. It's a person that I feel good around. When people when people see you acting in that way, when you really walk that walk, it's nothing but a good thing. I mean, they say, there's no such thing as a selfless good deed. I believe that. I mean, you can go around doing good deeds all the time and be Mr. Charity, and you're gonna feel good. It's just the way it is. You, yeah, 100%. We all have so much more value than I think most people really give themselves credit for. So you're in Canada, right? You grew up in Canada? Okay. It's a good message. And there's so many modalities out there for people who are, you know, in pain of any sorts that, like John's mentioned, are completely non-invasive, and they're becoming more accepted. It's part of what I do, participate in those kinds of things openly, truly open heart space and everything. And I can say, I mean, actually, I will say just one thing that's really drastically changed, which is this must be a mind over matter type of thing, because it's one thing that's happened to me recently that I have no real explanation for. And Antonia Harmon, credit to you. She's doing that PTSD study that myself and my producer Jane are helping promote. She's out of the UK. I went on her show and then she came on mine and she did just a small little bit of energy work on me. And I've always had this pain in my left hip flexor. Broke a few discs in my neck in a car accident when I was in my mid 20s. And, I played football and boxed and such when I was growing up all the way through high school. I was kind of roughed myself up a little bit. And I always had this massive pain in my left hip, and it would come and go, but it would at low be a 5 out of 10, and very often be a 9 or a 10 out of 10. Some days I'd be limping. It, I don't want to say disabled, but definitely affected my life. Um, she just did a little bit of what she does is called energetic cellular regeneration. Um, Similar, it started with studies of, child, like, a salamander, they lose their tail, but there's actually still an electric, you can see with the right measuring equipment that there's absolutely the electrical imprint of that tail. And then you watch it regrow. That's something that they do. They regenerate, and then they moved on to frogs, and well, frogs don't do that, but this happened with this therapy of energetic cellular regeneration. And I kid you not, within maybe 3 minutes, and this happened on air, I I have not had one single second of pain in my leg, hip, back, or anything. It's gone. It's completely gone. Yeah, maybe not. Some of that stuff does, depending on the what was said during it and such. But happy to share that stuff with you if there's anything cool, just as a colleague. Because yeah, what she's doing is incredible with PTSD. It's a you don't have to go in deep into the talk therapy of it. It's kind of a reverse approach where you know you really tap into the energetic charge of that emotion and of that experience. You know what it is. You don't have to go into deep traumatic talk therapy about it. And then she kind of neutralizes the charge of the emotion, so to speak. So you get to a point where, that trauma might be a 10 out of 10, but then, after a couple sessions, and in sessions, I mean, like, this all happens within the course of 40 minutes. It's just like a couple little different sessions in that 40 minutes. And you'll go from a 10 to a 7 to a 4 to a 0 to a 1. And you still have this memory, but all of a sudden you can talk about it and it's not traumatic. You can make connections. You can understand it from a level of, like, oh, this was traumatic to talk about and process. Now it's not. There's no emotion tied to it. It's just neutral. So that's just a plug for Antonia's amazing, groundbreaking PTSD case study. But for me, it fixed my leg. Yeah. Repeat customers. Hmm. Right. Right. Hmm. That's great. So, yeah. I mean, just I always think of like what people could have been if their traumas, if their darkness hadn't gotten to them, gotten the better of them. You know, I live in a big city. I live in Tampa. I do drive through downtown. I do see the sections of town where, you know, homeless sections and things like that. And, I feel for those people. I mean, of course, I know everybody's different. People make decisions. This world's very complicated. But that being said, I always feel for the person who maybe just didn't have the chance to, you know, whatever it was that was dragging them down, holding them down mentally. They just, for whatever reason, there wasn't the resources there for them to work through that. Now that could we could go deeper and say, well, that's something that was part of their soul contract. It's all good, but in the moment, yeah. Hmm. The cadence, something, yeah. For the hard ones, pay off karmic debt. It's like, oh, I can pay it, paying off that loan faster. Whatever way you want to look at it, yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. I've never heard it put that way, but I mean, logically speaking, that makes sense to me. I was told by a medium, and also during a regression, that during this particular incarnation, of course, this is what you're told by regressionists and such. I was told that I picked an incarnation this time where I packed a lot into it because I was getting close to the end of the reincarnation cycle, and my oversoul, apparently this is under regression. I thought I was hypnotized for 20 minutes. The video is 3.5 hours long, and then I did a that kind of thing. But then I had another one with a medium who, I mean, it was a very powerful session because my mother passed just a couple months ago, and she really came in with some stuff that, I mean, first of all, she admitted right away that she'd seen my show, so she was like, "I just want you to know I didn't pick up any information off you on the internet or anything." But then she told me stuff that just very little minuscule inside stuff that, I mean, you can believe what you want to believe. I believe there was some channeling going on there with the other side. There was some things said that just, I don't know how anybody would have gotten that information without hanging out in that room 15 years ago when that one conversation happened. It's pretty powerful, that kind of stuff. When you have those experiences, it's really opens you up. It really makes it like, oh wow, I'm in, baby. Put me in. What else can we do? What else can we experience? There's a whole other world out there. I mean, I'm 32 years old, and it wasn't until I was in my late 20s, about 30, that I really opened up to, CE5s and past life regressions, and really taking them serious and trying to get as much as I could out of them. And wow, since doing that, meeting people like yourself, his life has just gotten so much more filled with magic. Can speak on that. Oh yeah. Mhm. Sorry. That's pretty. That's incredible. I mean, and I've heard anecdotal stories and testimonials of, not similar, like regarding weight, but just drastic change. And that's just absolutely the sauce. That's so incredible, John. And that's got to feel incredible just to be a part of. I mean, it must be incredible. I know for me, it feels incredible to be doing anything that I love as quote unquote work, as a career. But it's got to just fulfill you as a soul, as a human, to know that you've impacted someone like that, to just to help shake loose that energy that cleared a block in the life that they're living, and enhance that experience for them, which may have very well been written, but it played out. So bravo to you. Absolutely. It's really cool. Yeah, excellent. I recommend you giving it a try with an open mind and an open heart, because magic is real. Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Under the pillow. Okay. Mm. I mean, myself, I've only had one past life regression done. It was a long one. I think we seemed to touch on two incarnations, maybe three. Um, but it was extremely beneficial to me. It was not at all what I expected, and I tried to go in with as little expectation as possible, just belief and openness. Um, and that was only a month or two ago, so I'm not trying to get regressed every week. But it is something that I will do again, whether it be with the same regressionist or with somebody else. I mean, I found value in it. I had revelations. I had connections that I could make. There was symbolism there that made sense to me, that was beneficial, and it's definitely something I would do again. Um, in, for those skeptics, I mean, if anything, because there's no harm associated with it. At worst case scenario, it's entertaining. I mean, just take it serious, though. If you take it serious, then you might get a little more than just entertaining. John, what? Just chilling. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's great, and I love that. Yeah, I use that as the example of transmutation is something that's a big theme in my life. Napoleon Hill. Um, Damn, why am I spacing on the title? Think and Grow Rich, Chapter 11. Hmm. Pretty much everything he ever wrote. But actually, Chapter 11 of Think and Grow Rich is well, he goes a little deeper on it, and it's it's actually sexual transmutation. But the idea of transmutation is something that I take very seriously, and at its core, it's just the idea of what we touched on earlier of not recognizing good and bad, but recognizing facts, recognizing what's real to us in our experience, what it really means, what the perspective is, and moving forward through it, not through the good or the bad, but and if you must label something as bad, or if something is inherently bad or sets you back, it's a lesson. It's not bad. It's an opportunity for transmutation, which for me, I mean, the things that I've had to overcome in life, which we've all had to overcome things. I'm not saying I'm special and I've had to overcome anything crazier than anybody else, but those moments of triumph, those periods of, oh wow, that's testimony. That's not trial anymore. Now that's just testimony that made me who I am. Um, that's transmutation to me. That's taking what could be perceived as bad and just looking at it as a neutral, and how can you make it all good, all positive, all love. 100%. At least. Hmm. In the current, yeah, beautifully said. I really like your views on your approach, your ideology, what you've studied, and the way that you've developed your methods. Um, it all sounds very well thought out. It sounds very profound. So I really hope that the world starts to hear about Jonathan Robinson, the hypnotist, soon, um, because your viewpoint's very refreshing. It's very authentic. It's very honest. And you know, the other thing is that I want to touch on, and I don't know, maybe I'm skewed in this. I live in America. I live in Florida. I do travel a lot, but you know, I've had a number of Reiki healers and hypnotists and such on the show, and most of them have been female, which doesn't mean anything to me. But you know, for example, I have a sister I'm very close with. That's actually whose house I'm at right now. She's a master Reiki practitioner. She does Reiki as well. And it's not that I've never met men who do energy work or Reiki work or anything like that. But you know, you're in Michigan, a little different spot than where I roam. Just out of curiosity, is that something that you've noticed in the past few years, recently, since you've become, you know, involved in the community, being a male, you know, energy healer, hypnotist, etc., versus now this could just be my opinion and what I've noticed over the past 6 months or so, what seems to be a population of at least the majority being females, you know, doing these energy work, Reiki healing, um, and things like that, which is totally, I think, one, to be random, and two, there's no actual correlation between the male or female ability to do these kinds of things. But just as, you know, someone who's actually in it and doing it, I was curious your perspective on that. Is that something you've ever noticed? Transmutation, of course. 100%. Yeah. Be the light. Yes. Amen, John. That was about the best answer I could have hoped for that question. Because yeah, I mean, it is true. And I'm happy to hear that I'm not insane. And you didn't say, what the hell are you talking about? 64% of Reiki practitioners are male. uh, so yeah, I guess, you know, it is, you know, just like in Wall Street, if you go to certain industries, you know, most hedge fund managers or, you know, financial advisors just buy statistics, and it's got nothing. I'm not speaking on why, just speaking on the Bureau of Labor statistics. There's more males in that field. There's more male oil rig workers. Now, there's some reasons for those things, oil rigs and such. But, you know, mhm. Right. all just people. And that's kind of what I was hoping that your answer was, and I'm happy to hear you say that men out there who, if you've ever felt, I personally I've never felt that the calling to become an energy healer. But if I did, I mean, that'd be amazing. I'd be very open to such a thing. That being said, I imagine there's men out there, and myself, even at a time, if I had a meditation and started having downloads of that sort, I might have been hesitant to, you know, unleash that information and start promoting myself in that way. Maybe, I don't know. At this current moment, I can say no, I wouldn't be. But I know at some point in my life I would have been, and there's probably a man or two out there that might feel the same way just due to family stigma, their friend group, etc. That's kind of all part of that, that test, that big ever going test with pop quizzes in between and in everywhere. Uh, that we call life, where we learn lessons, and those are the big ones where we got to make those decisions. Are we true to ourselves, or are we, you know, pleasing the greater good for the wrong reasons? Of course, there's nothing wrong with doing what's best for the greater good, but at the cost of self with capital S, I think that's a dangerous thing to do. And I think, not that I think all men should go around. I don't think we should switch roles, start wearing dresses, and just go around crying all the time. That's not what I'm suggesting. I think you hit the nail on the head there, where it's it's both. We came into this incarnation masculine and divine feminine both. Um, yeah, I've heard it said that the best men are the ones who have a sword, know how to use it, and also know how to keep it sheathed, and when to keep it sheathed. And when to keep it sheathed is about 99.9% of the time. It's just, I guess, having that capacity to be a protector or whatever it may be, just based on life circumstance. Um, that has no tie with the ability to tap into energy, to do Reiki, to become a an accomplished hypnotist, etc. So I'm glad that you're out there doing your thing. I'm glad that you are a shining example of all of those things: a light worker, an energy worker, a Reiki healer, a hypnotist, all of that stuff. You're a man, but you recognize your divine masculine and your divine feminine, and that's what breaks down the divide and conquer. That's the bridge. That's what takes all these, that's what takes it all away and makes us realize that there's unity to be had and enjoyed. Not people, right? That's the special. It's so boring. And maybe your friend makes a joke or something, and then they retreat a little bit. Eh, right, right. Eh, That's awesome. Heck yeah. So, John, a little bit, just tell me about John before he was a hypnotist and an energy worker. What did you do before then? Did you have like a wake up experience? Did you, pardon me, I was away from the mic there for a second. Before energy work and Reiki and hypnotism and all that stuff, was there like a wake up moment? Was there a wake up experience? Was there a time where things changed drastically? Or was this something that you've kind of always been attuned to since an adolescent and really stayed true to, or was there that classic wake up? And I ask because, people approach me all the time and they seem to be really in that position of misery in the quote unquote 3D 9 to 5 zeitgeist. Just they don't know what else to do. That's what they're doing. And, they want to do something else. They might feel like they're having touches of inspiration and downloads of abilities and such, but family, social ties, other things of that nature, hold people back from making that life change. I was one of those people. Was there a time like that for you, where you had a kind of that dark night of the soul, that wake up to yeah, lessons, lessons, lessons. Okay, we've got way too much in common. I'm glad we met. No. Yeah, yeah, right. John, we are going to be really good friends, and I'm going to be bummed if we don't stay connected after this because there's way too many synchronicities here with what we believe in and what we've got going on. And just, yeah, could be anything, I guess. Facilitating. Yeah. It's, yeah, that's how I know I pay attention to the signs. There's signs that warn you against things. There's signs that give you that feeling that you're supposed to take that path, not you're supposed to go left, not right. And is you get those confirmations that maybe you're walking down the right path. I mean, so I have a very similar, and I've said this on this podcast before, but I've got to say it to you because it's it's like a wow thing. Same something similar happened to me where well actually very recently I had my 12th concussion about 2 months ago. It was a random attack in Tampa, Florida. It was a mistaken identity thing. Some people thought I was somebody else. I was attacked from behind, but I found out it was my 12th concussion, which is a lot, just on medical record and everything like that. But so the concussion thing, I definitely identify with, and I feel for you on that one. But I had a similar incident, which I try to dance away from it because it's Joe Dispenza's classic story of self healing and all that with the neck break and everything. But I had a really bad car accident 6, 7 years ago, yeah, probably about 7 years ago. Uh, Major highway here in Clearwater, Florida, going 60 miles an hour. Multiple car accident. I broke 3 vertebrae in my neck. Um, Spent 6 months in a brace. Was not allowed to drive. I was told not to ride in cars. And then after the 6 months was supposed to be a corrective surgery. Um, I was vehemently against surgery. I did not want neck surgery. I did not want pills. I didn't take it. People know this. I'm in recovery. I don't use hard substances or anything like that anymore. So I was against taking pain medications and things like that at that time, and I still am. Not against anybody who does. There's people who need them. I just personally don't feel comfortable taking pain medication unless I really, 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 really need it. That's just me. So yeah, I had that, and I did the brace thing for 6 months, no pills, a lot of um, frequency healing type stuff. And I don't just mean like with sounds, but with like the mats, the grounding stuff, and all that. Just a lot of different alternative therapy type things, meditation. And I get back after 6 months and they say everything's great. Like, I don't really know what you did. You must have followed our directions. You do not need surgery. I'm fine. And furthermore, you mentioned the weight thing earlier. About, we'll round it up, and we're somewhere between a year and a half and 2 years, but I literally have lost 150 pounds. Um, and it wasn't any massive change in diet or philosophy or extra exercise or like, yeah, you could attribute a loss of 20 pounds or so to just a mindset change. That's reasonable. And somebody loses half their body weight. I mean, I was overweight. I was about 270, 280 pounds. I'm only 5'7". So I was heavy. And there's pictures out there to prove it. Low, yeah, I'm about one in the 135, 140, but low body fat. I look good, like I in the mirror and all that. But it was all during that dark night of the soul. I left my what a lot of people think of as like a why would you, the dream job. This is a job where you'll have security working here for the rest of your working years. You could probably buy the business if you want, etc. Good career, interior designer. I had to settle somewhere. And yeah, I left that, started reading, started meditating. But what I didn't mention was during that time, I just dropped so much weight. And of course, I was trying to be healthier, but not enough to explain losing 150 pounds. And like, now I'm like physically in a shape the way that I was when I was damn 16 years old. And I feel great. It's much more attributed to a mindset change than a consciously paying attention to a diet or working out a certain amount of hours a day. Just more that trust fall I always speak about, that following the path thing, man. And that's the type of stuff that really makes me believe in miracles. I mean, I've seen it in others, but I've experienced. Whoa. I've seen it in others, and I've experienced it. Like your client there, you broke that blockage. Uh, Something happened for me where obviously I was willing to. It was ridding attachments. I mean, there was a lot of things that have dropped out of my life in the past few years, which on the surface sound like, oh shit, those are losses. But what it's done is enabled me to have less baggage. There's less on my plate. There's less bandwidth being taken up. And even though some of those things were not inherently negative, there's a path that I'm supposed to follow. There's something I'm supposed to be doing that has to do with my true self. And without ridding some of those things, I wouldn't be able to. And there's a positive to that. Sometimes you also, you might rid a loving relationship that you thought was going to last forever, but maybe you realize that there's a silver lining, and maybe you lose 150 pounds too. Yeah, you just never know what's going to happen. That's pretty funny. But not funny, but you know what I mean. It would be funny if it were a movie. It's, it's not funny. Anybody. 100%. And to tack on to that, John, I would say, even if you're not ready to take that kind of dive, or you don't want to do anything that personal, you're a social individual, we're out there. Your tribe's out there. Reach out to us. We've got groups. They're free. They're group chats. There's no stupid questions. If you're going through what you think might be a little bit of a dark night of the soul, a little question of spirituality, a little search for self or God or universe or prana, quanta, whatever you want to call it. Um, there's plenty of free communities out there that didn't cost you anything to talk to like-minded people. My profile, my immersive page, my producer Jane's profile is actually way bigger than mine. You'd think she'd be the host. Shout out to Jane. I always like to shout her out. She does a lot of work behind the scenes. Uh, she runs communities on Instagram. She got 200,000 followers and thousands of people in her groups. If somebody messages us and says anything about they need help or they're uncertain about this kind of something, they're immediately being thrown into one of these groups where we're all boats rise. Just happy, 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 love, love, love. If that's not your tone, then you're not supposed to be in that group. And there's free resources out there, free communities where you can just ask questions and you can seek knowledge. Your friends and family don't have to know about it. You're for the lack of you're almost anonymous. So reach out to John if you felt comfortable with the way he talks. Reach out to me if you've seen me a million times and you're like, I wonder if I can get a hold. You can get a hold of me. I will answer you. Reach out to Jane. She'll also answer you. There's people out there that will guide you along. One thing I can say for myself and many others that I know, those of us who have had that quote unquote wake up, dark night of the soul, leave our perfect career and family and try to seek self. um, we've all been through it. It's not been easy the whole time for all of us. It's been tough. And similar to the way people get sponsors for other things. I'm not telling you to get a 12-step sponsor for this or anything, but if you're just struggling, you're not ready to dive into energy work yet, but you're feeling a little weird, just reach out. Reach out, and I think you'll find that there's some like minds out there. Wouldn't you agree, John? course. Yeah, 100%. It's we're switching into that abundance mindset. Scarcity mindset has controlled. I mean, I can only speak for Western culture. That's what I've experienced my whole life. But that scarcity mindset that we've been conditioned to operate on, I think we're starting to realize that that's not the case, that there's abundance out there. There's enough of it. What is it? I know we're thinking about greenbacks, we're thinking about dollar bills. That's not necessarily what I mean. Could be a part of it. But I do envision a world where it's not just a world based on fiat currency. Call me crazy, but I believe in a world where maybe energetic exchange becomes important again. And I'm already starting to see that. Um, so that's the beauty of it. You have something to offer. All of you out there have something to offer. Like John is. John's a shining example of just he's offering what he's got to offer, and I hope that somebody's clicking his links when we post this episode and lets John Robinson tinker around in that subconscious, because when you open up to that kind of thing, I promise you're going to be blown away. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, John, very much. Yes, we are indeed. For John's audience, we're a bit of a new show, but we've got a backwards problem. Most people start a show, and their issue is, how do we promote it on social media? Well, we don't have that problem. We're plenty big on social media. Um, Truth be told, my problem right now is I have guests who, they're happy to come on, but I'm telling them I don't want to have you on the show. You're too you're too a part of like human history to be on a show with 550 subscribers. You got to wait. You know what I mean? Those really big names that are in the history books. Um, Big things are coming up for the immersive, and I say that not as something exciting for just myself, but for anybody who's on the for you, for who's on the show right now, and anybody who's been on, and anybody who's going to come on. Uh, this is something that Jane and I really believe in. It's something that we've got a lot of third party confirmation in regards to from different organizations. Gaia is one of them you just mentioned. It's very recent. So shout out to Gaia TV. We appreciate you and can't wait to have a call with you to further our conversation if you're watching this. Unified TV is also great. They're both great networks. GFL Clothing has been amazing. This is probably the first episode in like 10 that I'm not wearing a GFL clothing. I'm wearing their hat. I just usually pick either a hat or a shirt, and I felt like wearing some. By the way, guys, we sell merch now. They come in like 5 different colors, hats, plenty of different colors, mugs, flasks, candles, all that fun stuff. And we're basically going on a world tour starting in September with Portal to Ascension. We're going on events with them. Uh, Hosting an 11-day consciousness streaming event in between. Then we do an all shift happily now with Tim Tactics, Sarah Bressman Cosme, Sarah Zula, and Kedrick Olson. And Kedrick is the next guest on this show. So with all that stuff coming up, um, hell of a lot of camera time for the Immersive Podcast, some great interview opportunities, and I'm not quitting. So I feel a duty to grow this, not just for me, but for anybody who's been involved, helped support, and who's watched. Let's go to the top, guys. Let's do it. John, I really, really thank you for your time today. I don't want to keep you any longer. We've done a long podcast here, which is great. You've been such a pleasure to speak with, and I hope I don't lose your connection after this because I think we could be close friends. Something I ask everybody. What's a book that you've read that changed your life? Okay. Okay. Very good. Those are some good ones. People will list obscure ones sometimes, and you'd think, oh, that's a good idea. That's really cool. Do you do any blogging or writing or anything like that on your website or anything else? Okay. Hmm. Awesome. Okay. And if you want to say your Instagram and your YouTube handle out loud, just so people hear them, they will be in the bio right down there. Click them. But if you want to say those out loud, just so people hear them, what's that Instagram, John? Between each word. Absolutely. So please go and find John. Check out his website. He's got videos on there. Your YouTube page. People check out his YouTube page. Anything we haven't mentioned, anything that is a way to get in touch with Mr. Robinson here. Like I said, not to be repetitive, but it will be in links, so you'll be able to find him. Um, for whatever reason you can't find something, always like, comment, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. But put in the comments, any questions you have, and I will hop to and get you that information. John is in Michigan, so he's in the U.S. I believe you're in what, Central Time Zone? Is that correct? Oh, you're in Eastern Standard Time, right on the line there. Yeah. So yeah, great Lakers up there. If you guys want to do an in-person session, John's your man. He's got the spot. He's legit, and I can personally say that the online sessions are not terrible either. I do appreciate the benefit of being in the same room with someone and mixing energies, but you can do a lot over the internet these days. I can attest to that. So, yeah, John, it was great to have you on today. It was great speaking to you. Um, really good to make your acquaintance. And quite frankly, I could speak to you for hours more. I think we could probably do another episode or a live or anything collaborative that you'd like to do. But yeah, remember we said that at the beginning, you tend to make a list and then stuff just goes off into a good conversation. But to me, that just means, oh, this is a this is a guy that I can vibe with. So I see a repeat guest, and I see the occasional live stream here and there if you would like. Always looking to just all boats rise, man. That's what it's all about. Um, that being said, I don't want to keep you on forever, and I don't want to keep people looking at videos that say 3 hours and turn them off to that kind of thing. So nothing wrong with a part two, right? I can sense your authenticity. I truly can. You're very easy to talk to. Your answers have been very authentic, and I mean it. I'd love to do another episode or at least a live or is anything we can do to you know get you some clients, expand consciousness, just anything. Absolutely, 100%. You do. You got what it takes. And there is a critical mass. Once we hit that point, things start to change, and it's already happening. I know you feel that shift. So this is Tyler with the Immersive Podcast. I thank our esteemed guest, Jonathan Robinson, today. Um, Certified hypnotist, energy worker, Reiki master, and many, many more. And just an all-around gentleman and a scholar. Um, Thank you to all of our sponsors. And again, sorry, one more shameless plug. The Printify link is in the bio. I want to see some people showing me pictures of them in some tip merch. So shirts, hats, flasks, all that fun stuff. If you don't want to get that, I'll settle for seeing you wearing GFL's clothes. I really like their company. Everybody, have a great day. Look forward to seeing John come on again because I'm going to bother him to come on again. And next episode will be Kedritz Olson, so that one will be fun. Love you all. Tyler Tivador, the Immersive Podcast, out.